Hi, this is Emily. Another handicapping video, but this one's a little bit different because I have my friend Scott Shapiro on this video today as we talk through this race. Hi, Scott.
Hey Em, how you doing?
Good. This is kind of fun because how many races have you and I talked on Skype in the past? Like thousands?
Yeah, we've talked through a lot of them, and so it's not, even though this is our first time on your YouTube channel, it certainly isn't our first time doing this. So it's cool to be able to share kind of how we discuss through races with others, I think.
Yeah, I think it's kind of fun, and I don't know. Hopefully, people will get a kick out of it. It's fun for me because usually I'm just like sitting in my apartment, like talking to myself. So it's nice that I have people to bounce ideas off of because that's how I usually handicap. Anyways, getting opinions. I have good friends that are good handicappers and talk the race that way. So this will be fun.
Looking forward to it.
All right. So Sunshine Million Classic. This is the 12th race on Saturday. A pretty small field. I mean, I know this card in the past has been pretty big fields, full size fields, a lot of handicapping, and this race is pretty straightforward. So I have the plot pulled up. I know Scott does his own handicapping, his own video work, but he also uses plot. So as I'm talking through this, it's not like you haven't seen this before, but kind of the way I'll start these videos is looking at the plot, and the first thing that jumps out at me is that quadrant one with the 4 horses in there, and how there's a potential, and I'm on standard by the way, a potential for some kind of contention early, and the pace to be honest, not blazing. Did you see it any different?
No, I saw it exactly that way. I saw there being several horses that I thought would be prominently placed, and then I looked at the plot and it agreed. I thought that, when I looked at the 2 Naza Beach, a long shot, I thought from the inside this horse would almost certainly be sending. If fast enough, would probably like the lead. And then I also thought that the 4, 6, and 8 that the plot shows would be on the lead, so on or near the lead. So I saw it the same, but the one thing I found interesting was that how many of these really want to go today's mile or Saturday's mile and an eighth distance to me is the question as well.
I completely agree with that. And also, because the one horse, I'll just add this in, Tiger of Wales, is coming from, God, where is that? Somewhere in South America, right?
You got Puerto Rico, I think.
Okay. Those races aren't showing up, so this horse, not on the plot, even though, unless, I don't know, do you see him? He's not in there. So a lot of times those horses kind of fall out, but we have running lines for him. But that horse isn't slow early either, and I think also, like you said about the 2, I don't think this horse will be on the lead, but kind of has to use a little bit early to get into the race, right?
Yeah, and I think the horse is pretty much outclassed. So, and with Paco, maybe you're right that just physically the horse isn't fast enough, but I think they're gonna do all they can to get out onto the lead. Probably not fast enough, like you said, but in an ideal world, I think they'd want to be on the lead. I don't know how they could possibly hope to win in any other fashion.
I'm talking about the 1. Were you talking about the 2?
Oh, I was talking about the 2. Oh, yeah, the 1 with it's the same with the 1.
Oh, well,
Definitely.
you said Paco. That's why I scrolled down. I'm all, whoa, is there a jockey change?
No. The 1 is a wild card to me. It's very, very tough read. Obviously, it has a couple decent races back. One at Thistledown, one at Indiana. But yeah, I'm sorry, I was talking about the 2. But you're right. Both of them, because of their posts, if nothing else, are going to want to get out of the gate well.
And when you said outclassed, I was like, yep, that's kind of how I see it. So even though you were talking about a different horse, so we have a scenario there, and then when you have some type of scenario like that, you want to look at those horses to just see if they have enough speed that they'll be able to kick away from their competition, or they'll be softened up so much to set it up from a horse from off the pace. With those 3 horses down there in quadrant 3, 3, 5, and 7. So let's get into actually I'll click over to surface distance just to make sure nothing kind of goes crazy on this. And then we really will have to get into the running lines and kind of put it together. There's the 1 down there in quadrant 3. to see how these horses, if they're run style matches, if they're, really like you said, I mean, that 9 furlongs, that's a big question. That's a couple horses in here, I think, that are sitting on good notes from an optics perspective, but also distance questions, and we have that shorter in there. So from here, you see the 6 and the 4 kind of move up above the par line, but again, pressure early 8, 2, and 1, and then 3, 5, 7 kind of spying. So let's start with the number 8, and from this perspective here, as I'm on surface distance, out in front, but just a little bit below the 6 and the 4. So when you were handicapping this race, did you see the number 8 as a legit favorite?
Well, I did based on class, without a doubt, and I also just some of the other logical contenders to me, I wasn't hugely excited about. But there definitely are concerns with this horse. I don't know if this horse can necessarily win at a mile and eighth off the lead. I did find it notable that Castellano took over for Rosario. There's several rider changes in this race I thought were notable.
But wait,
And
pause. Isn't Rosario in Saudi Arabia?
oh yeah. I didn't
Okay.
see it. Not necessarily because they gave him the boot, but just because of the way he rode the horse last time in the Harlem's Holiday. I
Okay.
thought I think we all thought he probably would be pressing Stanford a little more than he was. He rode kind of passively. But in this case, if Castellano can relax off of the other speed horses, I think that'll give Awesome Slew a much more significant chance of winning as the likely favorite. If he gets caught up, I think he's quite vulnerable, like I believe you are probably thinking.
Yeah, really his only race, kind of good pressing race was way back at Monmouth, in that optional claiming race at 6 furlongs. And of course, at 6 furlongs, he doesn't have to show as much speed early, doesn't have sprint speed, he's got route speed. But in some of the other races, I wonder if they're kind of flattered a little bit. That Parks race, I thought that was a good ride. He was alone, and the track was favoring speed. And then, other than that, just I don't know. He's just kind of common. Just would need a perfect trip in my eyes, and really short on the morning line. I just wrote these morning lines in 7-5.
Oh wow, yeah, I was kind of wondering when I handicapped it a couple hours ago. I figured he would have to be the class or the morning line favorite, but I was wondering how short. 7-5 would be, might even call him the most likely winner. Maybe you can convince me otherwise, but definitely would not consider betting the horse anywhere near that price.
Well, I think with the presence of the 6, I just click back over to the plot. Those two horses to me, and actually the 6 even looks a little bit better on the plot from just like a pace standpoint. But they have such the similar running style that I think that makes both of them vulnerable. And being outside, I mean, your hand's kind of forced. So I think that I don't really know if either of them are going to survive the presence of the other. So I'm looking outside those two. I pulled up the 6, and Cassie took over this horse. He seems like a horse that's on the improve. Has those last 2 races that, from our speed figure standpoint, a 104 in the slop and then a 101 in the classic preview are his best 2 races. And that was kind of you have to go all the way back to Aqueduct to kind of find those 2-turn dirt races, and even further back at Saratoga. But since he's been with Cassie, those are good efforts, and this horse, to me, they're going to go to the front, right? I mean, why take this horse out of his game?
Yeah, I don't think he has any other way to go. My biggest concern with this horse is it seems like he's somewhat of an off-track specialist. He has 3 of his 4 lifetime wins are on an off-track, and 5 of his 13 in the money finishes are. So not only will he not be loose on the lead, but he also seems to prefer some sort of give or slop of some sort to be able to run his best races. So while I can see a scenario where this horse can win, it wouldn't be a horse I would be much into wagering on.
Yeah, I guess that's possible. I just kind of sorted the off-track races. You'll be able to see it on the video. Oh yeah, and just a reminder, Scott can't see my screen, so that's why I'm like trying to describe things as much as possible. It doesn't, to me, and of course I'm using the optics speed figures, just kind of gauge this in the grades. It doesn't seem like there's that much of a difference. Like the horse really moves up on a fast track, even though he has those wins. That's just kind of the way I see it. I mean that's a good point. I didn't sort for that, and something to consider for sure. Just kind of pull out. So my handicapping is, I kind of just I looked outside those two. If I'm playing pick 5, pick 6, I'm gonna and I like some prices on the other legs. I would use both of these horses because I think that they can win. I mean, their plot. That's where you want to be. I don't have Impact TSD, highlighting that quadrant 1. So, and they're the big squares in there. So they're the horses to use. I went outside. So let's see. We talked about kind of the 1 and the 2, how they're below. What were your thoughts on? Let's go to the 3, because I think the 3. The 3 is 5 to 1. We'll go there.
Well, the 3 comes back really quick. Ran last Saturday in the House Hope. I kind of thought this gave this horse an outside chance at a price with the leg up to Castellano in that race, and didn't really do much running. That was a 1-turn race, and I feel like this horse is better served at 1 turn. The plot, though, does look good for this horse, and if High Riverside can get the trip and the distance, he could be, very, very live in this spot. But to me, he looks like a 1-turn horse, both in the running lines and by watching him. What did you think?
Yeah, I'll go back to the November 12th race at Gulfstream West, again, out of that classic preview. And gave this horse a B- wide improve. And outside trip, just kept trying through the stretch and a late lead change. And then Harlan's Holiday was a C+ drop improve. But the extended comment on there is needs to be placed at the right level. So grade 3 is just not where this horse belongs. And on the plot, I looked at this horse and I was like, oh, this is the horse. He's going to totally get the setup. He's going to be sitting like right there. But that race coming back quick, so this being like the 4th race of that form cycle from that November race, the speed figures are actually going down. So I wonder if this horse is just, he kind of just needs some more time. 97, 93, 91. And like you, the question on distance, I have that as well. I think he's a trying horse, but I'm looking elsewhere.
What do you think about the quick return factor too? I mean,
that's kind of what I was. This trainer, just following Gulfstream, he does that all the time, and this horse has run off 12 days, 14 days. When he gets in form, he runs this horse well. So going back to July, he ran pretty much every 2 weeks. So he can run. It's not uncommon for this trainer. I just wonder if this horse is like getting a little toppish, maybe running kind of a lower 90, upper 80 type thing, and then needs just a little bit of a freshening, just some more spacing.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like adding further distance even if this horse may be able to get the distance, it doesn't seem like off of 7 days rest and regressing numbers that this is going to be the ideal spot for this horse.
Right, and while we're talking about distance, let's go to the number 4, because that was another horse I looked at, and ultimately with distance kind of drone X through him.
The one thing that I found most interesting on the positive was the rider change on this horse to Saez. Edgardo Saez has not been riding well. I think a lot of people have been speaking about that, and just watching a lot of replays as I've been playing Gulfstream this week and catching up a little bit on that meet. I can totally see where they're coming from, and that was encouraging. However, like you said, this horse looks like another 1-turn horse to me. I'm not sure try to mile an 1/8 in that Royal Posse race. I think that was the Claiming Crown day. and had the same trip basically as Royal Posse, who came from off the pace and won. And I don't see it with this horse. I think this horse's best races would be up towards the front. And as we mentioned, there's other horses that are going to be prominently placed and that are probably better than this horse.
Yeah. There's, I just don't think that there's much in this race that's working to this horse's favor. I'm just gonna filter out because I think I actually took a shot with this horse just because I like wanted a price. Go figure. I know that's crazy for me, but because I went back and I was like, well, he hadn't really tried 2 turns. Maybe he's gonna get kind of that right type of trip, and then it was just like, nah, this horse just does not want to go this far. Only 4 other times in this horse's career has he gone greater than 8 furlongs. So, some reason for that because he has plenty of starts.
Right. I totally agree. Not for me.
All right, the horse that I found interesting is the number 7.
Me too, actually.
All right. You want
I mean, I can tell you my reasons are probably different than yours. My reasons are I think this horse will come from off the pace. Todd Pletcher seems to win every stakes race at Gulfstream that I don't expect him to on paper. And John Velasquez gets the leg up. So I think this horse is more of a wild card, and I don't know if the price would be right to kind of gamble on the horse given the fact that it hasn't really shown much form at all in a long time. But should get the right trip, certainly, gets the right connections, and I think, that if the price is right, it would be worth gambling. But what do you think?
what would you guess before I tell you is this horse's boarding line?
I mean, I was presuming it would be 4-1 or 5-1.
Okay, so 8-1. And
Okay.
yes,
Yeah, better.
yeah, and I was kind of thinking the same lines with you. Is there's some dirtiness to this horse's form that you would definitely want to take a price on him. But I know what you just said is he hasn't run a good race in a while, and having every single one of this horse's races pulled up with a note on it, I think there's a little bit more to those efforts. So, a lot of those races are on and off track. So I'm just going to filter the fast and then the routes, where there's really only one race, right? So one relevant race, which was the Smarty Jones race. And that race, Victor LeBron gave this horse a really bad ride. Like, he was super wide, and then he stopped riding at times, and just against the way that the track profile was favoring horses on or near the lead, and more towards the inside, if anything. And so this horse was just really up against it, and he did show some run through the stretch, so 82 optics figure, C+ grade, and even though it's showing, he's 9 beaten 14 lengths, this was actually a really productive race. I pulled this up earlier, the grid from Parks, and this is going forward. Is there's a lot of horses out of this race that improved 10 points, sometimes a little bit more. Well, let's see who's in here. Cocked and Loaded improved 10, Stick Stately Dude 12, Gettysburg 10.
That's a good field. I mean, that's a good field.
Abiding Star 15. So there's Seeking the Soul. He improved another 8 points. So that race there's some things to like out of there. You can't really be too harsh on it. And I know he has run since. Oops, one too many clicks. That he has run since that race, so you would have expected it. But clear this back out again. That was on the turf. And the note there is a C prep. So I think, going back to the grades and the running lines, the Amsterdam, I know the running line's not pretty, but that's a B-. So a B- and a grade 2. And then back to as a 2-year-old in the Sanford, a B, hopeful B-, breeder futurity, a B-, and also a trouble BTL. So I think that this horse, that there's just some more upside to him. But again, there's also some question marks that his form on optics as far as grades would look better than his running lines. But he does have to improve. The fastest speed figure that was showing is an 89. if he moves 10 points, which seems to be the average on that Smarty Jones, and 92, he's going to have to hope that kind of the eight and the six just kind of show up with a B effort. They're not ready to run their top, but I think that's also possible, especially if they're softened up on the front end.
Definitely. Do you have any concerns? I know a lot of the popular verdict is that Gulfstream is speed favoring. I don't know how much I think of it, but it does seem to carry certain speed horses further than maybe some other tracks. Do you have any concern a mile and an eighth that this horse will just be up against it in that respect?
From a pace standpoint, well, we kind of don't really know because of those, in those sloppy races back at Monmouth, he wasn't too far back. I mean, they're moving up on the front end. He wasn't too far back, and he's been able to keep, even in the sprint races, not too far out of it. So it's so hard to say positionally. I don't think, and I certainly don't hope that he's like 15, 10 lengths back like he was. Even at Parks in that first call, he showed a little bit of speed. I think he was like fourth or fifth early, and then by the time in the first part of the running lines, he's eighth, but he was up there. But yeah, it is a concern. I mean, on the plot, it's not favorable. He's a small square, tiny little square way down here in quadrant 4. But we were talking about this. I think it was yesterday, and we were talking about how what I don't know, kind of has more power than the other, like the plot or the notes, and I think you have to use them in conjunction, to kind of go, okay, is he a stone cold closer, or maybe he's going to be closer. I think that's the part where you have to kind of use your handicapping skills to help assess putting those two pieces together.
Right. Yeah, no, you're right. And looking at it, it's not like he's hopelessly, he breaks dead last in races. If this horse is live, this horse could get the absolute perfect trip. The more I look at it, based on the amount of speed shown in shorter races. So.
Yeah, and he has that class. This is an interesting horse to me, and since if I'm kind of looking outside of the 6 and the 8, obviously horses to use. We talked about the 1 and the 2 just kind of being below, the 3 and the 4, the 5. Obviously I don't have this horse as like a win contender. He's just too slow and too far below. But since we have so many questions on horses in these distance, this guy could run 4th. So I mean, I know people are probably going to use an all and they might get him, but I don't think he's an impossible horse to get in there. I would mess around with him running 4th at his morning line of 50-1 or greater.
Hasn't hit the board in the last 13 months, but has made $314,000 somehow. So, and won just 2 wins. So obviously,
just has to suck up. Just has to suck up.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of these horses are going to be. I mean, if the 3 and the 7, if the 7 doesn't fire and the 3 doesn't like to stretch out, this could be a stagger fest. There's no doubt about that.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
So doesn't sound like a race that you and I are like super excited to get involved in, but of course we'll be playing it to some capacity, tournaments or betting sequences. Are you going to be playing Gulfstream on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, usually how I hope to be involved in a race like this at the end of the card is through a pick 5 or something. So, it would be tough for me to just toss the 6 and the 8. I probably won't, the form with Cassie might have me using the 6 as well, but I may just go 7, 8 in that spot and, allow myself to spread a little bit elsewhere.
Okay, that makes sense. Speaking of pick 5, what are the results? Any good from today?
They're running right now to decide my fate here in the finale at Gulfstream. So
okay.
Let's cross our fingers we can get this single home.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it. Sunshine Millions Classic. I'm going to post this video up on YouTube right away. Hopefully you guys enjoy it, and Scott and I will do some more videos in the future. Thanks for listening. Always subscribe to the channel, likes, follow on Twitter, all that good stuff.